Chief. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. I appreciate it. As you can see, I'm joined by Mayor Evans, members of my command staff, and one of my many partners in public safety, Fire Chief Napolitano, who's also had been assisting us in our Clinton Avenue corridor. So, as we said, we're here to talk about the North Clinton Avenue corridor, some of our efforts down there. I have a statement, the mayor has a statement. We'll take some questions afterwards. So just over 1 month ago on June 22nd, as you remember, David Vasquez was brutally murdered at a drug house on Oscar Street. It was a Sunday morning, if you remember. Later that morning, while trying to take one of the suspects into custody, one of our officers nearly lost his life when the suspect fired a gun at him from merely inches away. Since then, our patrol officers from Clinton Section, our folks from the Community Affairs Bureau, and the Special Initiatives Unit have been out in force in the North Clinton corridor. And let me backtrack just a little bit on this. You know, the North Clinton corridor is always an area where we try and do extra enforcement. Just previous to this incident, we had used the mayor's gun violence emergency order to close down Chester's check cashing due to some gun-related incidents. So we had a plan in the area, we had resources in the area, but the events of this Sunday obviously caused us to step some things up. So we began taking more aggressive enforcement actions. We also began doing more walking patrols, more biking patrols, meeting more with community members, and listening to those who lived and worked in the North Clinton Avenue corridor. I myself tried to log a few hours every day down there walking with Captain Lucian, who regularly walks in his section, I might add. Met with a lot of those folks firsthand that, you know, I normally wouldn't get to meet because a lot of them own businesses. They don't have time to come to my meetings, you know, our community meetings. So went out, met a lot of them firsthand in the places where they work and where they live. So we listened, and we've been taking action. Over the past month, our Special Investigation, which is our narcotics section, and the Greater Rochester Area Narcotics Enforcement Team, which is the task force made up of multiple agencies, but headquartered with the RPD, have executed 5 narcotics-based search warrants in the North Clinton corridor area. These warrants have not only recovered narcotics, but firearms as well. Just this morning, the SWAT team executed a search warrant at 1072 North Clinton Avenue. This location, although it looked like a board up and vacant and surrounded by trash, had been a primary source of narcotics in the area. Inside the location, detectives found fentanyl, crack cocaine, and powder cocaine, all packaged for sale. As a result, 2 folks were arrested this morning on the search warrant. Jamie Statt of Webster and Stormy Watts of the city, but not of this neighborhood in the city, have been charged with criminal possession of a controlled substance in the 3rd and 4th degrees, one of which is a B felony, one of which is a C felony. Additionally, an open-air drug market that has been festering at a vacant lot on Morrill Street, a couple hundred yards away, was cleared out this morning. And you know, if you're not familiar with the area, let me just say this open-air drug market and this drug house were literally within a stone's throw of a daycare facility that operates in the neighborhood, with, you know, young children there on a daily basis dealing with the after effects of what comes when there's heavy drug trafficking in a neighborhood. Members of the Clinton Section, the Community Affairs Bureau, Violence Prevention, and the city's Department of Environmental Services responded after this and are working to bring an end to some of the blight to the neighborhood. I would note in the last several months alone, Morrill Street, where the open-air drug market was, has had a person shot, a carjacking, shots fired, a gun arrest, and the neighborhood has also been plagued by multiple rubbish fires, one of which was set while I was down there on foot patrol, and we had to call our friends from the fire department to come put out the rubbish fire, which was behind a vacant structure. I still think they might have done it because we were down there, but needless to say, the fire chief can tell you we've had a lot of rubbish fires in the area. The folks who live and work in these neighborhoods don't deserve this. Today we took increased action to bring this to an end. As chief, I would like to commend the men and women of the Rochester Police Department. Although they almost lost a brother officer, a captain I might add, a leader in our department, to the violence in the neighborhood, they have all stepped up and responded. That response has not only been enforcement of laws, but listening and working with the residents of the neighborhood to make it a safer place for everyone. Constantly checking vacants in the neighborhood, making sure the boards are secured on a daily basis. Constantly talking to environmental services to make sure the litter is cleaned up on a more frequent basis on these vacant lots. And, making sure that people are not hanging out for the purpose of drug activity in the neighborhood, on our sidewalks, in these vacant lots. Additionally, I'd like to thank our law enforcement partners from the New York State Police, again, Chief Napolitano and the Rochester Fire Department, Rochester's Department of Environmental Services, the City Law Department for their prompt action and emergency closure orders, the City Officer of Neighborhood and Business Development, the Northeast Safety Coalition, who's been going on frequent walks in the neighborhood and sending us valuable pictures and information, and the folks in the neighborhood that just, came out to talk to us and let us know what was going on. Whether it's the woman who is putting an 8-foot fence around her house on her own, out of her own money, because she just can't take it anymore, to the folks who came up to me and said, can you let folks from the suburbs know that not all these folks are homeless, some of them just have drug addiction, and please stop bringing them food? A lot of folks came out and talked to us. We're not done. We're going to continue listening and continue to take action in the North Clinton corridor to make it a safer place for residents. For the daycare directly across the street from the former drug house, which will remain closed under the gun violence emergency order, and to the businesses trying to make a living day to day in the neighborhood. And I will hand it over to the mayor.
Thank you. So I'm just going to speak plainly here. I'm going to speak extremely plainly here. What we had going on in North Clinton Avenue, we've always had challenges in North Clinton Avenue, but I want to specifically speak to the last 2 months of what's been happening in North Clinton Avenue. It was exacerbated by open-air drug markets. And I also want to point out that most of the customers that were coming into the city were not residents of the city. And often you hear about, oh, that poor city. Oh, the city is so dangerous. But we literally had, and in this case today, with the search warrant that you just heard the chief mention today, you had 2 individuals, one that did not live in Monroe County, that was involved in the illegal drug trade on North Clinton Avenue, exacerbating the conditions that the chief had mentioned. You also saw within the last 2 months homicides, the individual murdered on Oscar Street. You saw a stabbing. You saw an officer. We don't even like to think about the outcome that could have happened with the shooting that happened almost a month ago on North Clinton Avenue that happened. But you literally have people who have taken over houses, taken over city lots for the purposes of injecting poison in the community. Period. Clear. That's your headline. And in doing that, what they were doing was making residents of Ketchum Street, residents of Morrell Street, residents of Oscar Street, residents in certain parts of North Clinton Avenue basically hostages to their own environment and being taken over by people who do not live in the neighborhood. And we find that totally intolerable and totally unacceptable. And when they were coming into the neighborhood, what they were leaving behind were needles, shell casings, blood, all types of stuff, all within the evidence. All this evidence is out there. We have pictures. We didn't put them out. We could have blown them up and put them on boards. And I'm not speaking as someone who sits in the corner office of the 3rd floor at City Hall. I'm speaking as someone that has walked this at least 4 times within the last month and walking it again Monday at noon. I've seen it with my own eyes. I watched people be dropped off from outlying areas and be sold drugs. I watched it with my own eyes. And I came not, I wanted to come as a resident. And I didn't announce it to any of the media that I would be there. But I saw it with my own eyes. Councilmember Patterson is here. He walked with me and pointed out areas to me. And I want to thank the residents of this neighborhood that said, that's a drug house that's peddling poison. Those individuals over there are setting fires. Those individuals that are being dropped off here for God, no reason. They weren't going there because they were going to Sobrino's restaurant. They were there to make sure, to try to wreak havoc in our community. And what we're saying is that we're not going to solve this overnight, but what I want this community to understand, and you have media, after we're done talking, we're done. You can talk to any of the 8 people that are sitting in front of me right now, because I've heard from all of them and more that are not here, that have said, Mayor, we've had enough. You need to do something about this in our neighborhood. This is only just the beginning. I want to thank the chief and his team, but I also want to thank our DES crew, our legal crew, all going out saying that we are not going to tolerate this. And what we're saying is we're going to use every single tool that we can, legal, gun violence emergency, everything, to make sure that this wanton disregard and illegal activity stops, not only in the North Clinton Avenue, but there's other areas of the city where we also are going to be targeting. Lau Avenue is next in terms of what we're seeing. I was on Lau Avenue on Friday, and what I saw was just craziness in terms of people thinking that they can come from outside of the community. And my message is to people who are from surrounding Rochester. You should be very careful about how you denigrate or say things about the city, because we have evidence to show that, yes, there's some people in the city that are doing some bad things, but a lot of it is also being trafficked into the city. And you saw that by the 2 arrests that have happened here and other arrests that we have not talked about. But the message is clear. I want to say to community members, when you see a drug house, make sure that you call 911 or the mayor's office or the Reported app. It may take us some time to be able to do it, but we will get to it. I'm putting a stake in the ground. I get it. It's difficult to win the war on drugs, but what we can win is the war on lawlessness. And that means thinking you can sell drugs right within a stone's throw of a daycare center, right within a stone's throw of a park, right within a stone's throw of a grandmother who's invested in her house and lived there for 30 years, but felt as though she couldn't come outside because she had violence happening, because you have drug dealers thinking that they can fight over territory in spaces that they don't own and don't pay taxes on. We are not going to tolerate it. This one location was just boarded up. We have 3 others that are boarded up that were involved in illicit activity, and we are going to continue to push this. The people on Ketchum Street, Morrell Street, Oscar Street, Remington Street, they don't deserve this, and we're going to make sure that we continue to keep our pedal to the metal as we continue to hold down this area on behalf of the residents here. I also want to thank the Northeast Safety Committee, the neighborhood organizations that are involved in those organizations, and just the regular residents that stop me regularly who say, we've had enough. You hear a lot about hashtags. Hashtag, we had enough. Don't bring it on North Clinton Avenue. Do it somewhere else. Preferably not within the city of Rochester. But together, we can change this. And we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep coming back. Because this won't be solved overnight. But by working together, we can make sure that we bring some peace to the individuals in this neighborhood, and that we enforce the laws that all of us take an oath to uphold. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the Chief.
Yeah, and just to add on, starting in this corridor and, probably expanding throughout the city, any city-owned property, we have some no trespassing signs going up. So if you are on a vacant city lot for the purpose of narcotics activity, you're going to be asked to leave. If you don't leave, you're going to be arrested for trespass. If you decide you're going to bring a tent and you're going to come down and you're going to pitch it on a city lot so you can be near your favorite neighborhood drug house for the weekend, you're going to be arrested, and we're going to take your tent. And with that, I'll take a few questions. So I can't give you specific timelines. I can speak in general terms. In order for us to get probable cause to do a search warrant. It does take a certain amount of time to collect the evidence that we need to go before a judge, have a judge issue us a search warrant that we can then execute. So, sometimes we can do that fairly quickly within a few weeks. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, again depending. So it's been in the works for a little bit.
Do we know how long that they've been selling drugs out of that one?
It's been on my radar for about the past 4 weeks at least, I can say. I know it was on some of my folks' desks a little bit before that. We've closed it before, and we've had to deal with sales out of there. This time we're using the gun violence emergency order, so it will stay closed. Well, some of it's already in the works, though. I was speaking to the Lake Section Captain Cornell, yesterday, and on a section level, they've already implemented some things. They're working with businesses that are having problems, again, with folks who don't belong there loitering. Businesses that are just trying to do business, and you got these folks hanging out that aren't patronizing the businesses, don't belong in the neighborhood, whatever. And we're working with the businesses so that we can start making trespass arrests where appropriate to keep these folks moving or where they should be. Well, so well over the past year, I believe, we put in place working with city security as well as code enforcement, as well as our partners in the fire department, checking on vacants on a routine basis so that we can try and more diligently keep them boarded up or, as they come up for demolition, if appropriate, get them demolished a little more quickly. A lot of the vacants are not city-owned. So, we have to use code enforcement and other means to try and keep them closed down or boarded up as appropriate.
And just on the vacants, the city only owns about 4 or 5 vacant boarded up houses. The vast majority of these vacants, as the chief said, do not belong to the city. So we have to find the owner, go after the owner, and when we're boarding up vacant houses that don't belong to the city, we're doing this at the owner's expense. We send them a bill to do that. One thing we did add in this year's budget is we added a lieutenant. We added a lieutenant in the fire department that will also help us to address these vacants, because these vacants are not just magnets for criminal activity. They're also magnets for dangerous fires that put firefighters in a very, very precarious situation. And I can use many examples, one of which was on Oscar Street, that if we did not get there fast, it could have taken out the entire street. So these vacants are a major, major focus of ours. We have an internal team that ranks the worst of the worst to see what we can do to make sure that they stay that they stay boarded up, and more importantly, that we either get them back to their useful life and get someone living in them, or get them taken down. And that's our ultimate goal. And this is why this role that we just added, in addition to what we already have in the neighborhood and business development department and code enforcement, added this also to the fire department, because so many fires that we've had, particularly the first half of the year, were at vacant structures where individuals were engaged in illegal activity, and they decided to set them on fire for whatever reason. And that didn't matter if it was 90 degrees outside or if it was 30 degrees outside. But the bottom line is that we can't tolerate that, because it puts the rest of the housing stock in our city in danger, and particularly the housing stock that they're next to in the neighborhoods in danger.
How important is it that community steps up and comes to you?
Oh, well.
Comes to the chief? Because a lot of times they call us before they call
Well,
the
well, first off, most of what we do is based upon the community. That's why we're able to do this, because when me and the chief were out walking, which we do, we were in Charlotte yesterday. We were on North Clinton Avenue, but before, community members have come to us. So a lot of the information that we get, particularly about houses where narcotics are sold, the only way we can really address that is if you keep giving us that information. Because this is a city and a county of 750,000 people. There's no way that we could know all the places where illegal narcotics are sold. And by the way, it's just not the vacant houses where you might see illegal narcotics sold. There's other houses where that look like regular houses where people are doing that, but you have to give us the tip. And because we live in a democracy with probable cause and all those things, every tip is investigated. And that's why I encourage the community. And you can send it anonymously. We have a reported app where you literally could say, 123 Main Street, they're selling drugs out of it. Check it out. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to call us. You don't have to do anything else. All you have to do is send that tip, and we'll go after it. But there are many people in this community that said, Mayor, I'm no longer, I've had it up to here. I'm no longer afraid. Here's the address, and you can tell them I gave it to you. Because that's just how tired of they are of it. They're sick of it. And I'm doing this on behalf of the residents who actually live in that neighborhood. These are my constituents. They live here. And those are the people who we need to be concerned about. The people who actually live there, that pay the taxes there and want to see their neighborhood thrive. They don't just want to survive. They want to see their neighborhood thrive. And it can't thrive if you have illicit and illegal activity. When you think you can be so bold to think that you can fire at a police officer or kill someone because you think that they came into your spot, which, by the way, you don't own. You're not even listed on it. You're saying, this is my area, this is my territory. It's not your territory. You don't pay any money. You don't pay any money for that territory. And what we're saying is, and what the neighborhood is saying is, get out of here and stop doing this. And we have so many options for people. We have one of the best workforce development programs in the country, in Monroe County. And we want to get people into those types of programs, not disrupting. Anything else?
One more? Anybody? Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Like I said, you can talk to some of these people here. They